What do we think of Mafia? Mafia.
¿Qué es lo que pienso de Mafia?
What is crack? Is your boy D-Murph, and we're back with another episode of the Mafia podcast. Before we get started, big shout out to Rira, who have been sponsoring this season, holding us down with free cans. And yeah, joined by some very special guests to talk about Ireland today. So we got Saul, Duffin, Lucinda, Graham. How you feeling?
Stupendous.
Great, yeah.
What have you been up to today?
Well, me and you were actually doing a wee photo shoot earlier for...
Thanks for the invite.
I know. Well,
Fine,
we
it's
only
fine.
got invited because we look similar. And there's another guy there, Seamus, who also looks like us.
We've been reduced to a Spider-Man meme,
That was
just
the whole
pointing to each
brief,
other.
was just that, they were just like, we want the Spider-Man meme.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, so no, it was dead all.
It was good fun. T-shirts are sick.
Teachers are nice. And now we're here, ready to talk about how class it is to be Irish in 2025,
Yeah.
I believe.
Well, what were you up to today?
I want to say, but I also feel like it sounds like I want to make sure that the people at home know I also have very boring days. Today was actually a very fun, lovely day, but
Yeah.
like I don't always do very like. I was basically at somebody's studio. We're having a meeting. We're looking at socials. We're looking at like their kind of world building and how they want to move their brand forward. And like I've never met the person. Shout out Wacko. Never met Jack. Never like, but it was really great. And like it's lovely to see people doing really cool things here. But like it's just really because I only just moved back from London a couple of months ago, and it's really lovely to see people that I've never met still like coming up and coming through.
Does it feel like it was like that before? Do you think there's been like a change recently?
I think it was better before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, controversial. I think that cause he lives.
Yeah.
Because like even when I was coming up and through uni and like doing raves and doing all that kind of stuff, right? Like you'd fourth floor studios.
Yeah.
JB, yeah. And like we would do Melt and we'd do like the fashion parties and like all of that kind of stuff. And those studios were, I mean, they should not have inhabited anyone. They were horrendous. But they were also really beautiful, and it was such like a kind of gorgeous collective space, and it felt really easy
Yeah.
to jump in between different scenes.
Okay.
Art, music, fashion for me.
Mm-hmm.
It felt really easy, but I also am aware that social media has grown so much since then. So is that like a mental thing where like people are like participating from afar? But is that also because people can't afford?
I think
To go out
in
and do
general we
stuff.
do
Jeez,
or
stop
participate
fucking
First one of the
from afar.
podcast.
I think that does happen though, that we do participate from afar when it comes to even like club culture and stuff. I
Asking
feel like
big
people,
questions.
yeah, like but we just like watch it through our screens and feel like we don't need to participate sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
feel
I don't
like,
know. It's like a which one
It's
came first?
interesting, like what participating actually is like.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people think like you have to actually be making something to be a part of something, or
You
you,
can
can't
just be a punter
Yeah,
and enjoy.
Yeah, being part of the
You just
community,
go out.
like.
and be friends with people like.
Yeah, I guess because it ties in basically because we're talking about like I put up a TikTok talking about like Ireland's disproportionate influence on culture. It did resonate with people, but I kind of want to dig into whether one it is a disproportionate influence, or is it like kind of more surface level, and like what is going on now, and do people feel like there is kind of this golden age of music, art, fashion, culture and all going on? Because I think the on the surface it does look good and stuff, but I'm not really sure if that's how we're feeling. Like even you saying that it felt better before.
And now that's just me talking about the north.
That's
Like,
that's fine though, but like I think it's just an important distinction to make as
Yeah.
well.
I mean,
Well, I guess the question I was going to ask is like,
Yeah.
why does it? What's missing now in your view coming back from London?
I think it's access and community. Because like, let's say for example, like the street where I lived, everything was within proximity, not just people, but like if I took a notion that I wanted to make something or got a last minute invite to like a party or a show, there's always a party, there's always a show, something going on, right? I'd be like, if I was skint and was like, hate everything I own, right? I can run straight across the street, fabric shop, hardware store, everything is within reach for me to go and get and to actually produce and make. And it's easy for me to commute. It's easy for me to get to different places. Here it's like a 3-day wagon journey. All the I know I'm talking fashion here, but like all the fabric shops pretty much have closed down or are like crafty. They're not actually like great textiles for like making. So I think everything's become quite sparse and quite spread out, and that that immediate access feels much harder, and like we've seen the closure of so many places,
Yeah.
and then the disparity of community, I think.
Well, what about even that transactional nature now? Because there's so many more people that are making clothes and starting
Yeah.
brands and stuff like that now, but it's like almost more transactional where you can just like throw a logo on a t-shirt and order it online, and it's a lot more accessible, but it's
But that's
not
not a
it's-
brand.
Yeah, but
Like,
it's
it's
it's also
marketing.
not built into like a community necessarily. Like people are trying to grow their online community, and that's something I sometimes have like
Yeah. You're making
bit
merch.
of yeah.
You're
It's like
making merch,
I have a bit of an
basically.
issue with like online community building in general because it just feels like it's just people trying to sell to people. It's not
But not
actually
yours though, because they're lovely.
do you know what I mean though? Like it does kind of feel sometimes like it is just trying to build up an audience to sell rather than to actually do anything. And I think that's the nature of the internet. Whereas in person, it's not the same when you've actually got a vibe with people
Yeah.
and you're actually enjoying connection, spending time with people.
That's because you have to be doing what you're doing first, and then the people follow. Instead of being like, I want the people to follow, so I'll do this. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It needs to
yeah.
be the other way around. That's a bit meta, but you get what I
Yeah,
mean. by
no, I
that.
get what you mean. But I guess like zooming out, like we're talking in we microcosms there of like bigger issues at play that are making it feel different. But if you were to say this to someone from outside Ireland that it feels worse in the north right now, they'd maybe be like, "Oh, that's surprising."
But I think it depends because late night art is so much stronger, I think, than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So there now, I don't want to tarnish everything with like one brush.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's obviously like pockets. There's certain
yeah.
things.
Well, I feel because obviously I didn't live. Sorry.
They're talking about London,
fucked
make you
up
want to
again.
choke there.
No, it was
Just
because
you're
I
at
lived,
London.
I lived in Manchester before. I came back during COVID, and like obviously I was kind of like I moved away because I thought there was no. So obviously you were in like a cooler fucking group of friends. I was kicking a football up Cave Hill. But when I came back and I was surprised that there was stuff going on because I just assumed that it was like kind of like you just like work for Deloitte or PwC. Thought that was the only options you had. Like, you know what I mean?
If you also work for either of those companies, that's fine.
Run! Civil service as well. Oh, sorry. But no, I didn't realize there was a scene here at all. Like, so I came back and kind of did the opposite of you, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
So to me, I was like, it seems pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. And you obviously
but
started
obviously-
magazine stuff off the back of that coming
Well,
on.
yeah, well, I started a magazine and like obviously it was during all the lockdown, so it was only kind of looking through the fucking social media things that like actually know what people were doing, and that was the kind of community that was like. And then obviously once it ended, I started meeting people in real life. But yeah, I thought there was like I was surprised that there was some pretty hip and happening people in the north. But then yeah, you look down south and I was like, it does look a wee bit more kind of multicultural and
Yeah.
diverse down there.
But I
They
think
have
that's
scale on their side.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it was also a case of the fact that there was a war here for 30 years.
Yeah,
and no
that's
one
true.
wanted-
That would be part of it. That would that
no
little
one kinda-
chestnut.
no one wanted to come here for fucking ages.
But I think that point you make about just like scale and more diversity and stuff in the south definitely makes a difference to like culture and stuff. And like even now we're seeing a lot of like black artists come through. They're
Yeah.
doing amazing stuff. Like people like Moyo, like the whole Camel crew,
Yeah.
Ahmed Love, like all these artists that I really, really love. And that seems to be like a beneficial thing that's happening. That's like really because fucking 10 years ago, if you said you're gonna be a rapper from Ireland, people just clowned you, like, you know what I mean? And it's kind of changing people's perspective on it as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's strange to see like the Irish hip hop is kind of fully materialized in a credible sort of thing. Not to say that everyone who does it is good,
Yeah.
because they're not, like, but they're giving it a go. And I feel like it does, like, obviously if you look at the history of Ireland, there's fucking poets going all the way back to ages ago.
But on like a global level now, we do have like standout people that aren't just like popular within Ireland. They're like
No, they've actually
doing-
gone farther than
yes,
here. Like,
they've transcended
yeah.
that kind of thing.
Good
and
word.
like this is the thing that I'm just finding really interesting. Is like there is people in different pockets that are all doing bits, whether it's film, art, music, culture, but they're seemingly unrelated. Like some of the things, like if you were to give a surface level thing, you could go like trad music's way more popular, like Irish language stuff, and obviously that's linked, right? But then you have someone like Jordan Adetunji from Belfast, who is doing something that doesn't really have any roots in Ireland, but is recognized globally, and that's like a new part of the Irish identity. And I think, what do you think there is in the water right now, or is there something going on that's meaning that people can thrive interdependently in their own lanes?
That there's like a kind of defiance, and like just because like there's that innate thing a lot of people have here, and like fuck you, I'll do it. Like I really like
wanting to prove people wrong.
It's kind of I was probably like boiling down to the punk thing of like I'll fucking do it myself. Don't need you to do it.
Have you felt like that?
Yeah.
100%.
In what way?
Like I grew up like super rural, and like really like parents were like agricultural and like academic, like no connection to any art, no connection to culture, like did not grow up like going into the city or like doing those kind of things. So the only way I access any of that kind of culture was like YouTube, SoundCloud, Tumblr, Dazed or ID online. Like those are the only pockets that I could actually access. And so it made me feel like I had to work like 10 times harder than anybody else to even get my foot through the door,
even access it.
And then also, you know, you have the whole like, if you are Irish and you're rural, you probably 99% have your family being like, would you not do accounting? Would you not settle down and do something, you know? And they just don't, and they can't understand like you are doing like a process of life that is completely reversed. So like a lot of my peers, even people I went to uni with, bought a house, married, starting to have kids. Obviously, I am nowhere near that. Done the complete reverse, but I've chosen to do this path that is going to set me back, and it's going to set me at a different pace, but it's a pace that I've chosen, and that gets like harder as you get older. But it's, I don't know, it's really different. It's really hard to explain, but like it makes like it builds like a defiance in you. Be like, I've never had this, I've never had access to it, I've like nobody's explained anything to me, so I have to do this for myself. And
you almost have to, like in other places where it's established, there's a foundation for being able to do stuff that other people have already done. Whereas if you're from here, sometimes you actually have to carve out your own lane, which is like completely 10 times harder.
It's very lonely.
Yeah.
It's really lonely because like, especially like Belfast at the minute, and has always had such an incredible fine art scene. Like the fine art here, the artists are incredible. There's so much beauty here. But if you do anything that's maybe just a bit removed from that, it can maybe be lost, misunderstood, and harder for people to access or understand, because people now have come around to late night art, which is amazing, and people should still keep going out. But it's like, if you're maybe just a bit left of center, it's not quite understood, and it just can be so isolating to do stuff like that. And I think that's why a lot of people move away, to be understood.
I think it's also like, I don't know whether or not it like stems from the sort of like us and them mentality of like, but it maybe trickles down in this like creative scenes where they're like, oh, they're like street photographers, we don't mess around with, we're like more like interpretive stuff. But there was that, I mean, it was sort of the reason why I started doing the magazines, because like all these kind of like ravers don't really mix with all these like rock fans, and I was like, we're all just we're all just trying to have a good time. You know what I mean? But I was like trying to connect the dots between like people doing creative things, and then like, but I feel like there is that sort of like kind of old cliquey thing that I think is maybe hard to escape, because you start having friends, and then you start knocking around with the same people, and then you become a clique. But I don't know whether or not that's just because it's like a small city, and like we've got like hate ingrained in this. We love hating other people, because I hate a few people. Like, but I try not to, and but I also think it's a good thing, like a bit of like competition, and it's like you do get like a wee bit of spark of like drive to create stuff.
I think what you're saying, what I'm saying, right, is basically that if you're from here and you're doing anything creative, you're already like 10 steps behind anybody else in the rest of the UK or I know I'm talking about the north, but maybe Dublin as well.
Yeah.
Just because of the scale and a bit more access. I know it's still hard in the south, but you're starting already on the back foot, and it really does like get your back up because you're like,
Yeah.
If you start from a harder place as well, it's like as you get further down the line, it does seem a wee bit easier in some ways. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
you've had to do the worst bit at the start.
Yes.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
You also kind of have to battle against the like just the preconceived expectation that you have to be like, right, I'm gonna base my whole creative practice around the troubles.
Oh,
Like, I don't want to say who gives a fuck, obviously, because there is bad, like, but like there's more than life than fucking history, like. Even though it's good to know and it's good to like.
are you talking about like the Belfast film that came out and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, just in
And
general,
like the
I feel
same
like
stories
even, like when I was like I feel like a lot of
being perpetuated.
because I get sent some stuff by like art students and they're like other projects. It's all about like all the follow on of the troubles and like peace process babies, and you're like, fuck off. Like,
Well,
you know what I mean? There's more than life. And I don't know if that's like kind of ignorant of me to say,
I do know what you mean though, because you
kinda
don't want your whole
saddens me a wee
experience
bit.
to be reduced to one thing. While it is important to highlight and stuff, but I guess when we're talking about like this bigger picture, sometimes, you know, there's so much great stuff out there, music, art, culture, as we've mentioned, but a lot of it can feel very similar and fit into the same neat boxes and the same conceptions of what it means to be Irish is. So why do you think that is, and why do you think it's like that is resonating with people now? Because people love fucking drinking pints of Guinness, listening to fontaines, and I'm not hating on any of this. I'm just saying this is what people outside of Ireland perceive Ireland to be right now.
just pretty cool, man. Isn't it?
Just kind of cool, sexy, like
It's pretty chill.
just a couple of chill guys. I actually was speaking to a friend about this, and I was just like, oh, like, what's your thought? And so Darren McCrellis, stunning tattoo artist, shout out. He actually gave a really great answer, and he was like, I think, do you ever know, like, you can see something and I've never experienced it, but feel like ultimate nostalgia. Like, do you know when people do those AI TikToks of like, you know, New England, and it's like with those like 80s sounds, and you're like, oh, I love this, and like makes you feel all warm. He was like, I think people see and view Ireland as like home, even though it's not.
Romanticize it a wee bit.
Yeah, and he was like, I think there's some sort of connection that people have. You know how like you go anywhere and people are like, I love Ireland. I'm 1/16 Irish. You're like, but like, I really think that there's something in that where people are just, they feel this kind of like sense of like homeliness or coziness or warmth or something like that, like culturally.
I can see that for sure, definitely. I think what do you think it is then on a personal level that is making a lot of these actors, actresses, artists succeed? You've touched on kind of that resilience that people have, the inbuilt resilience from having to start from a different point. But what do you think it is that's pushing it to that next level? Because it's almost like a wave now. It's not like individual people. It feels interconnected.
I have a theory that I haven't. I've no scientific like reasoning at all, but I think it's racist.
It's racist.
I think it's because like we're seen as like the oppressed, like we're an oppressed nation,
right?
But we're still white, so it's like we can all pile on and like we can like be behind the like underdogs, even though they're still white people. Like,
okay, I'm so glad you said that because I was waiting to say this. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So, hang on a wee moment there.
Get the fucking reread.
Okay, so very important to note that a lot of this theory and a lot of the like these conversations have come from people of color, right? But a lot of people of color experience this kind of phenomenon of being othered, right? Which you see in celebrity culture, Black Ariana Grande, right? You see like Black Miley Cyrus, where it's easy to adopt the traits of Black culture without any of the kind of conversation because you're othering it and you're seeing it as exotic. That's a really dangerous thing to.
It's like a
push.
costume or something.
Exactly, it's really dangerous to push something like that into like something that you can put on and take off again. And obviously, when it doesn't suit them, when it's not profitable anymore, they let go of it. And I've seen a lot of people, especially on TikTok, have this kind of like online discourse around that. And you know, white people at Carnival, like, you know, that their proximity to oppression and their proximity to otherness, what they're considering other, then makes them cool
Right.
because they are othering it and making it exotic.
Okay.
And I think that because Irish history has become more accessible and it's become more understood through music, through the arts, through stuff like that, and because it's white, I feel like it's more acceptable for the English
Yeah.
and for other people to associate themselves with something that has that punk and has that edge and has that feeling.
That
of
makes a lot of
being-
sense.
I make a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you agreed there because I was afraid of saying that.
It
Yeah,
does-
and not
I
to
get
conflate
it.
obviously the black and the Irish
Yeah,
experience,
yeah, yeah.
but
Not
at
however,
all.
it's a similar
It's just-
thing. It's proximity to someone else that's like, you know, oh, but I understand because
I'm Irish, actually. I know what it's
and like I split the G, so I'm cool. Like
Splitting the G is
come
definitely a British
through,
psyop
kick
of
the
some
beach
sort.
can.
Like,
no, sorry, these are the same people that will order. Have you ever heard of a Guinness and black?
no.
Guinness and blackcurrant. They'll put blackcurrant in the Guinness.
That's
No,
just a
complete
disgrace.
sacrilege. Like
Yeah.
it's horrendous.
It's also needless.
and like, but like now you want to like split the G
dilute
and wear a
something that's
palatable
not
and like,
water,
When do you think this change actually happened? Because like when I was just researching and googling, you know, you think of like when normal people came out, you think about like
That actually
Dairy
probably was a
Girls.
big one. I didn't think about
I
that.
think that
I
might
didn't
be the
think about
moment.
that.
I think like, do you remember in lockdown though, where like
Connell? Connell's chain.
yeah, I actually I feel like that
I think
might have
that
been
radicalized a lot of women.
The gas shorts as well.
Ooh,
But
yeah.
that did feel like a massive pop culture moment because even like people
Mm-hmm.
like Kim Kardashian were sharing that kind of stuff and kind of buying into it and all. And then since then, you know, the O'Neill
Paul
stock
Mescal's-
was going up, like, you know what I mean?
We're all buying stocks. And
Yeah. Like, but where would you sort of pinpoint this starting in your mind, feeling this kind of change? Because I personally have felt that kind of change for a few years now.
Yeah, well, I think I was like a classic thing. I moved away and immediately got so much more Irish.
Everyone does, man. You just started wearing
surrounded
Celtic
by
shirts
English
everywhere.
people,
And
like, you fucking.
only go to Irish pubs. Like,
Although it was just like because there's like English people are just so clueless about how much damage their
yeah.
government did. They are poor wee innocent island. And yeah, I don't know. It's just I mean I also believe we've got a good accent.
We
Yeah.
do.
I think that has a lot to do with it. Like we have a
people
very
do love the
melodic
voice.
Yeah.
sound and accent, and I just thought I'd say that.
Yeah, you just want to shoehorn that in. I do think now that you've said, I'm like trying to retrace, and I do think normal people might have been a really because also
More
what
people
I
was a big one, like
this is now
Dairy
that,
Girls as well.
oh Dairy Girl, oh my gosh, yeah. But now this is an assumption, but I do think it's true. Is that I think it's more normal for Irish, more normal for Irish people who have had a tougher time accessing maybe like a certain level of industry in music or acting or whatever it is. I feel like they are much more prone. I'm just talking about even myself to bring other people through the door once they're through. And so I wouldn't be surprised because they're all interconnected. Like,
Yeah.
they all know each other.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And like I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of like Paul to Barry or you know,
Yeah,
like
I'd
I wouldn't
like
be
to.
surprised.
I'd like
in
to
it.
think that as well. You know, that would be.
I think so.
Yeah, I'd like to think that, and
And I
yeah.
think that now this is a bit of like this is me putting the tinfoil hat
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
But I do think that there's probably a little bit of
because you
drawing people through.
do see a lot of like support for grassroots people from
Mm-hmm.
higher up in Ireland in a way that you maybe don't see. Maybe I'm just having confirmation bias here, but I think that a lot of the rest of the times you see stuff, it can be like, you know, basically just jumping on the bandwagon when something's popular or like trying to capitalize off something. But I even seen like Dermot Kennedy sharing a courtesy video like last year, and you know, you just don't really see that kind of stuff. Just putting it on a story
Yeah.
and it's like, this is sick.
Yeah.
You don't
just because you can
just because you can. Yeah.
and just because you want to.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is great.
Yeah, and I think his festival, he even curated the lineup and invited loads of artists like Finch and stuff like that. But yeah, I would like to think that there is that kind of community camaraderie based on like bringing other people through.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah, I feel like it's maybe what year did normal people come out?
2020.
So it's probably just like a COVID thing on people sitting around and not being able to go out.
Just because COVID radicalized a lot of people as well.
It's probably just like people are like
Towards
everyone was sitting on their phone the
the
whole
Irish
time,
cause.
and like things were because when you think about like there was always been like Irish heavyweights across the entertainment industry, like, you know what I mean? Like, Sinead O'Connor, Thin Lizzy, which I think are maybe one of the best rock bands of all time. But maybe I don't know. It's like there's kind of the
because it does feel different now. Because like
Yeah.
like we're saying these have existed, but it feels different, and it feels like it feels sometimes like it's a bit of a spectacle for
I'm
people.
trying to think. Is
Do
there
you know what I
But
mean?
that's the othering. That's the sense of
Is it just
the
because
othering.
we're in Ireland?
maybe like no one actually
No one gives a
either.
fuck
We're just
elsewhere.
No one
this
cares.
proportion, like.
I'm trying to think.
We're all you're talking about how great Ireland is there. Like,
Where's that again? But like I'm trying to think if there's like been like another country that's had like it's like I don't know.
but to be at this
Estonia
level
be-
where like every year there's like Oscar nominees
Yeah,
and movies
yeah.
and like
Grammy nominees
every
like,
year.
Yeah,
That for sorry, what's the population
it's
of
like
Ireland?
7 mil or 6 mil or something.
That's like London. That's like
Yeah.
the population of London.
it's nuts.
So that actually is so much more impressive.
Because that can't just be like something about how we're perceived. Like that's actual talent. Do you know? And this is kind of what I'm trying to get at is why.
Although talent plus work ethic though,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
all of my Irish friends in London, I have more friends in Dublin who are now in London than are in Dublin because they can't afford to be there. It's cheaper to be in London, which is insane.
Which is bonkers.
Insane. But every single one is the biggest grafter you
Yeah,
ever met. And then, you know, you're in a house with like other people that just don't have that same like need to like perform and like a need to do well. It's like something like proving people wrong.
yeah.
And like I watch people around me or people I went to uni with or would have been mates with or whatever and seeing like how hard they push themselves over there. And so I do definitely think that there's like that like wee like niggly inside thing that's like I have to, that pushes you so much harder.
Yeah. There's something as well. I was thinking about how like the example of Moyo, he had a song come out nearly
A year?
It's 2023. It came out in and it blew up at the end of 2024. So nothing really changed for him. The music was always good, but it just
broke.
blew up. It just
Yeah.
blew up on TikTok, and it's like
was some-
maybe there's just been a lot of just sleeper artists and stuff that maybe might have not have had the opportunity, and maybe we have a disproportionate amount of talent. This is just like winging a random thought out there, but now the exposure is there as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And I think maybe with TikTok as well,
Yeah,
it maybe just allows people to find their audience quicker.
I think that I actually love that about TikTok so much that you can
Yeah.
post the most niche stuff and it will reach the other people, and it reminds you that there is fucking other people that have the same weird
Yeah.
interests.
You're not that
Yeah.
special. Like
Yeah.
Oh no, you're not an individual
No,
at all.
No. Never had an original experience in my life.
Never an original thought.
No.
Never. No. Nothing's new.
yeah, he's cool though. I like him.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's clever. He's rode that wave really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like watching how he's worked it and how
Having
he's
that
kept
wee
it going.
nostalgia vibe as well. Like
It does.
Kind of
Yeah.
webcam video.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
feel like I'm fucking on MSN here.
Messaging babes after school.
EBM.
I actually think the kind of just diversity in sounds and stuff coming out is cool, because I even remember like on a more niche thing like hip hop, everybody thought there was going to be like an Irish hip hop sound at some point, and there's not really. Do you know, like it's a lot of people doing different stuff under the same
Yep.
banner, if you can call it that. And when it comes to even other types of music, there's just a lot of other stuff going on. But do you think that the shackles have been let off a little bit in that regard, that you don't have to be pigeonholed into a certain thing or expect it to have a Irish sound or Irish look?
If you say shackles, I'm immediately going to start singing Mary Mary. Like you can't say that word and not expect it.
Isn't that a fair shaka?
He said Frere Shack.
That's what I was thinking.
Frere Jacques,
Yeah.
rendezvous.
A classic. But no, I think like obviously the fucking preconceived notion of Irish music is the kind of fiddly-dee.
Diddly eye.
But then like when you look at trad music, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Like that band Hortan,
Yeah.
I think it's probably one of the best Irish bands going at the minute. I think it's trad tronica. So they fuse traditional Irish music with rave sort of stuff. And then it's also like their live shows are like, it's like high art.
Yeah.
You're going to watch like
The whole
theatre.
production,
Oh,
yeah.
it's brilliant.
Do you think there's something to the idea, like when I was younger, I kind of resisted a lot of traditional Irish music and stuff because I
Yeah.
thought it wasn't cool.
100%.
And now do you think that we're maybe, well, exposed more to the history, more accepting of ourselves, all this kind of thing, that it's allowed people to lean into more of this stuff as
Yeah.
well? That's what I kind of, because I feel like there's way more people that have a deep interest in the Irish language,
Yeah.
Irish history and culture than there has been
Yeah.
in my lifetime easily.
Yeah. Well, here's my theory. Allow me to put the hat back on for a little moment. But I think it's because of actually globally where Ireland is positioned. So we're last stop to America, last stop to Europe,
Yeah.
to mainland UK, whatever, right? And so it's a really weird position to be in because I know things are so much more like globalized now, but like you receive all of America's TV and culture, but you also get all of Britain's and all of London's and all of Glasgow's and all of that. And then also you have Dublin as well, but then you're also so close to Europe there. And so I feel like there was just like also like a rejection of identity, but also you were just getting everything else kind of in. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't think there was really the headspace to even consider what your own culture was. And now growing up a bit more and seeing that resurgence, you're able to kind of connect with it more.
Yeah, because I think there's something about that like monoculture of like when MTV or whatever was dictating what was cool.
Yeah.
And we don't really have that anymore. We are able to just go on our
Well,
TikTok
you
feeds
dictate
and
it.
see it.
Your
Yeah,
algorithm
yeah.
shows you exactly what you want to see.
He
Well, you can do both. Like
guys,
you
the
can,
MTV.
I dictate
This
it.
guy.
But I think this is a great point to leave it on for part 1, and we'll get into part
Tune
2.
in next week.